Welcome to the Legal Vendor Podcast, part of the Lawyer Minds ecosystem. The Legal Vendor Podcast is dedicated to exploring exceptional software and service vendors in the legal industry. Lawyer Minds goes into in-depth interviews asking real questions from each vendor with limited sales fluff. Learn how they can potentially help take your law firm to new heights. Each episode is sponsored by the vendor being interviewed. Ready? Let's dive in.
Jason Sweet. How's it going, buddy?
Pretty good, Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing well. Today we have a very special guest, Karl Seelbach of Skribe.ai. And what they're trying to do is kind of change the entire industry when it comes to court reporting and how easy it is, how effective it is. It's pretty cool what they're doing.
Yeah, from my experience in that realm over the last 8 years, I will say that that specific part of the legal industry is long overdue for some upgrades. So, you know, what little research I've done into Karl's company and what they're doing, it's all pretty impressive. And you know, I'd love to hear more about it. I have a couple hesitations that, you know, maybe he'll just from my interactions with attorneys over the years, but I'm gonna love to hear his responses on those and how they've overcome some of the naysaying on doing anything technologically advanced in this industry. So
yeah, absolutely. All right, let's jump in. Here we go.
Great.
You're listening to the Legal Vendor Podcast, part of the Lawyer Minds ecosystem.
Karl Seelbach, welcome to the Legal Vendor Podcast.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. You pronounced my name correctly, so you're already off to a good start.
Well, I figured it was Seelbach because I've been to Louisville a ton of times, and there's the Seelbach Hotel, and you know, Seelbach's just one of those names, and I love bourbon, so I figured that was the
Understatement of the year.
I was just at the Seelbach Hotel last year celebrating two of my really good friends had a double 40th birthday party. And so we stayed at the Seelbach Hotel, and I actually stayed in the Seelbach Suite, which was owned by one of the brothers who founded that hotel. And we may or may not have drank some bourbon on that trip. Nice.
You know, not to sidetrack here, get off the rails too soon, but there is a story, I think might have been Blink 182. There's some band stayed at the Seelbach and like almost burned down a room or something like that. I don't know. I have to dive down that rabbit hole sometime, but it's crazy.
That sounds very Blink 182. So
it does. Good. I could have just made that up. I don't know, but I know I heard something about that before. Anyway, Karl, Welcome to the show. Co-founder of Skribe.ai, which is what we're here to talk about today. Why don't you just jump in and tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and what is Skribe.ai?
Sure. Happy to take those in that order. So, yeah, I'm Karl Seelbach. I'm a litigation attorney based in Austin, Texas. I grew up in a small town in Northeast Texas, Henderson, on a little ranch property. And actually, my first exposure to what I wanted to be in life was probably around 9 years old. I'd walk into my dad's home office, and my dad did expert witness work kind of as a side gig for plaintiff personal injury attorneys. And so I'd walk into my dad's office and say, you know, hey, Dad, what are you working on? You know, what are you doing? Let's go play baseball, you know, kind of pestering my dad. And finally, one day he said, well, you know, here, read this. And he handed me a deposition transcript of a pretty gruesome personal injury case that he was working on. I think it was an oil and gas platform injury case. And I was just kind of excited and enthralled and just kind of dove into the transcript. And I think he handed me kind of the most gruesome section of the testimony where they were describing, you know, some really bad injury. And that's part of what inspired me to become an attorney, was just kind of osmosis through what he was doing. I got to meet some of the plaintiff personal injury attorneys that he used to do some work for in Northeast Texas. some really kind of heavy hitters, and that was pretty cool. They got me excited about potentially going to law school, someday. I kind of kept in touch with them through high school, and so that was kind of the inspiration for eventually going to law school and becoming an attorney.
That's awesome. What a story. So, and that kind of leads you into Skribe AI, where you're trying to kind of revolutionize the court reporting industry.
Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit more to the story, but
yeah,
it's a little more in between here and there.
a little bit of things happen in between, but you probably don't want the full novel. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. So went to law school at South Texas, great law school. Again, knew I wanted to do litigation. The only real question was which side. Was it going to be on the plaintiff side, or was it going to be on the defense side? Actually, my first summer of law school, did a summer internship with a firm at the time. The name of the firm was Williams Bailey in Houston. Great plaintiff personal injury firm, and just loved working with those guys. Steve Kirker, Mike Petronella, some of the other guys that were working on that team, and managed to study really, really hard and get good grades in law school. And by the time my second summer rolled around, got a internship at a couple of big firms. And at the time, to a young kid from Northeast Texas who had only ever worked part-time jobs as a delivery boy, felt like big money that these firms were paying. And so ended up going to work at a really big firm. And that's where I started taking lots of depositions. And so it just became a big part of my practice. At the time, this was this was 2006, 7, 8, 9, kind of those years. It was all travel, right? You were driving, you were flying, time away from spouse, time away from family to take the depositions. But I would always kind of think to myself, as we'd sit down in these conference rooms to take these depositions, man, this is an archaic process. Like, why am I paying some sweet older lady? And I say that because that tends to be the demographic of your average stenographer. They're not all female, but it is overwhelmingly female. And a lot of them are a little bit older. At least they were older than me. I was in my 20s at the time. And then to get a video, I had to pay a court reporting agency to send a videographer to set up equipment that looked like it was used to film the movie Jaws in the 1980s, And as a techie, I was always like, God, there's got to be a better way. Like, why can't I just use my iPhone or set my iPad up or do this, electronically? And one of the most frustrating things would be, at the end of the deposition, they'd stick a pricing sheet in front of you, an order sheet in front of you, and say, well, how fast do you want it? What do you want? What format do you want it in? And if you want it fast, you typically have to pay double or triple to get it, the same, the next day or maybe the same week. Otherwise, you're waiting weeks and weeks and weeks to get a copy of your record. And it always just kind of struck me as a broken process. And so that's kind of what inspired me to co-found Skribe, to try to modernize the way that we take depositions and capture testimony.
Yeah. Cue COVID and the propelling of technology in the legal industry.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I will tell you that Tom Irby, so I met Tom Irby, my co-founder of Skribe, right around 2000, I think it was 2013 or 2014. And at the time, Tom actually owned a court reporting agency. And Tom and I both had the same kind of gut instinct that this is not the right way to do this. Like, there has to be a more modern way to capture testimony, to get it faster with software to where it's all tightly integrated, the video to the text. And we started brainstorming back then, and we were kind of back of napkin ideas. Okay.
How long ago was this, Karl?
This was like 2013, 2014.
Okay.
And what's so crazy is, you think back to the story I told you at the beginning of walking in as a 9-year-old boy in Henderson, Texas, to my dad's office. That's still the way deposition transcripts were being delivered in 2013 and 2014. I mean, the companies, the court reporting agencies, were still shipping PDF shipping transcripts. Maybe they'd throw in a DVD drive or a USB that had some PDF files on it. I mean, it was still a very broken process. Most firms have switched to at least an electronic repository, kind of like a Dropbox where you grab your files. But anyway, the point of all that is we kind of back and napkined a few ideas. Should this be a marketplace where we have kind of like almost like an Uber model where attorneys can hire a videographer and the videographer can go in person, and then we leverage software to generate the transcript? And we ultimately decided none of those were the best fit because they all had some pretty significant labor expenses involved in them and just things that were going to be difficult to scale. And then, to your point, Jason, COVID hits. And, I have the law firm of 14 attorneys, 11 paralegals in Austin. And we were a little smaller when COVID hit. But at the time, first our clients told us, don't do any work. Don't send us any invoices. Don't do any work. And so that was a nerve-wracking 30 to 60 days. And then everyone realized, well, we're going to have to figure out how to keep pushing our cases forward. And the answer was Zoom. Really, for litigators. I mean, Zoom hearings, Zoom depositions, even Zoom witness interviews and inspections. I mean, we were Zooming all over the place. And so Tom and I reconnected, and I was like, Tom, this is it. This is the answer is I shouldn't be paying a court reporting agency to hire a videographer to press record on a Zoom session and charge me not less, but more for the privilege of doing this electronically. So yeah, no, Jason, you're spot on. COVID is kind of what paved the way. So we reconnected, started ideating in 2021, started the company in 2022, and just launched earlier this year.
Wow, that's wild. So for 8 years, you guys just kind of put this on the back burner, and all of a sudden, who had the light bulb moment? Was it you or?
It was me, and it was a moment of frustration. And
do you remember where you were?
Oh yeah. So sometimes good ideas, or maybe at least decisive action, is taken when you're pissed off. And so here's the story. So I was getting ready to take a deposition in a catastrophic personal injury case of a surgeon, and like a lot of these surgeons, they're often only available to have their deposition taken in the evening because they're busy during the day seeing patients. And that's fine. So 5:30, 6 o'clock, I sign on to a Zoom. This is in the middle of COVID. I think this is summer 2021, I think, maybe early fall. And the court reporting agency that we used at the time had sent a court reporter, stenographer, and very, very sweet lady. And I said, okay, I think everybody's here. We're ready to go on the record. Will you press record so we can start this deposition? And she just kind of looks like a deer in the headlights and says, well, Mr. Seelbach, there's not a videographer here. And I said, well, we don't need one. Just press record, and you can type the transcript, and we'll be off to the races. And she said, well, I don't see where one was selected on the order form, which was a miscommunication because we video all of our depositions because video, in my opinion, is the most powerful way to capture testimony. And so I got pretty frustrated because I didn't want to have to rebook this deposition. And I finally just said, look, opposing counsel, why don't we just jump on my Zoom link? I'll generate a Zoom link. I'll record this. I'll share a copy with you. And we'll just, do it that way. And the opposing counsel was very cooperative. She said, no problem, let's do that. So we jumped on my Zoom account. I recorded it. And that night I called Tom and said, this is bullshit. We need to change this. There's got to be a better way to do this. And, one of the other things that changed pretty significantly between 2013 and, 2022, 2023 is the quality of ASR, automated speech recognition, has just improved tremendously. So for people that maybe haven't experienced it yet and assume, well, Siri's not that good, she really doesn't get what I say very clearly. Mm-hmm. It's nothing like that. I mean, the software that companies are using, that we're using to transcribe these depositions, leverages, state-of-the-art ASR plus large language models, so that it's essentially replicating the manual human process with software. And so let me briefly explain what I mean by that.
Yeah.
A stenographer, are you guys familiar with like how a stenographer captures testimony?
Not me, to be honest with you.
You don't, Ryan, you don't study up on steno machines?
I study on a lot of things. That's not one of them.
So here's a short version. Have you ever seen a steno machine, a stenography machine?
Is it like a little typewriter?
It's like a typewriter, but without any letters on the keys.
Okay. Nope, I have not seen that. That's a good Google search.
Yeah, you should Google stenography machine and see what one looks like, because it's kind of baffling. So it's a very impressive profession. One thing I hope doesn't come across wrong in this
oh wow. Okay.
Or you looked it up.
Yeah, this is interesting.
So stenographers are very capable professionals. They have to study to figure this out. They're actually taking phonetic notes of what is being said, and that's how they're able to type so fast. Is their notes that the keyboard is a phonetic keyboard, and then after the deposition or during the deposition, depending on what software they're using, the phonetic notes get translated into text that you and I can read, and then it has to get typically scoped out either by the court reporter or by someone who's called a scopist, who goes in and cleans it up and corrects any mistakes. The current AI process is very similar. Okay, not identical, but it's very similar. So in a non-stenographic deposition or a hearing, or let's just say you're trying to capture testimony, the event is being recorded, just like this podcast is being recorded. And typically after the event is over, the software gets run through an ASR engine, automated speech recognition. The software is really listening to the phonetics of what's being said, and it's translating that into the words. The reason it's gotten so much better in the last 5 years is it is also now able to, just like a human would, like going through and scoping it. Oh, they didn't actually say that word, in the context of this sentence, it was actually this other word. That's the power of the large language models. So now not only is the software able to know what words it thinks were said, it's able to contextualize those in the sentence or the paragraph, just like you and I would if we were trying to type, notes of a conversation or a transcript.
Very fascinating. Yeah, I had no idea. I always just figured they were just typing away at a keyboard, and that was it. Wow. I told you, I'm a dummy when it comes to some of this stuff. So very, very cool. Very fascinating.
Yeah, it was invented in 1877 was when a stenography machine was invented. So it's been around a long time, and it certainly is it's a skilled profession, and they get paid very, very well, and they should get paid very well. What they do is not easy. The thing that's happening in the industry right now is there's a shortage of stenographers, and you can see it from reports from the National Court Reporters Association, as well as several other companies, including some of the large court reporting agencies, who have blog articles on this topic, and even the push amongst the stenographers to get more young people to go to school to become a stenographer. And I think they've made some headways on that, but there's still a shortage because the number of attorneys is going up, the number of litigated cases is going up, but the number of stenographers is not keeping up with the demand.
It's almost as though a perfect storm arose in the last few years, to propel Skribe to where it is. I mean, you were discussing your background. So I worked for an expert company for about 8 years. So, I share some of those feelings you have in the depositions, but it was the bane of my existence for years, having clients reach out for experts, and travel was always the forefront, right? Didn't matter if that expert wasn't going to do any type of in-person inspection. The attorneys knew the case probably wouldn't go to trial. The fact that travel may be an issue for depositions was always something, this expert could, assume bill, 30 to 50 hours, but the couple hours of travel time, that was always well, do you have anyone closer?
Yeah.
And, every time it would always be, well, you can always do a remote deposition.
Right.
And it was such a, not only, the technology didn't exist to where it is now with, and with your company Skribe, but it was just a non-starter for so many in the industry for years of even, being receptive to doing anything online. And then, with the hell of AI too. And then obviously, I remember court reporters were becoming sparse before COVID, but just like any other industry afterwards, right, where there's workforce shortages. I think all three of those things combined,
that machine is pretty scary to look at and to try to wrap my head around using. And I'm a gamer, and I'm pretty good at playing video games and figuring stuff out, but I look at that and that's very intimidating. So I don't,
I've never tried to type on one, but I have heard that it's actually pretty challenging to pass the exams to become a stenographer. Like
it's about 2 years of schooling, isn't it? Or give or take.
I don't know how long the schooling is, but I've heard that the passage rate is not as high as you would think, because it is a very it's a skill that takes a lot of training to get right, especially when you're listening to people talking fast and maybe talking over each other sometimes, or they have a dialect. It's a really interesting profession, and I think our goal is really to bring some other features that maybe court reporting agencies don't offer and help fill that shortage, that gap. There's not enough stenographers anyway. And so, one of the big things that and this isn't as much of a sales point as it is really just a benefit to my law practice, is speed. So like when you take a Skribe deposition, within an hour to 2, you have video synced to a rough AI transcript that you can keyword search, you can create clips, you can share those clips just like you and I would share a YouTube video or a TikTok. So that lets you, you mentioned expert witnesses, that lets you immediately, the same day a deposition's over, start sending segments of testimony to your expert or to your client or to your co-counsel or whoever to get ready for the next thing in the case. And then because, this is all done through software, the proofread version, which doesn't really require that much proofreading, it's amazing how good the software is. It gets delivered within 3 days with no rush fees. So, it's a speed play, right? You really are able to process the information faster, and be able to interact with the video in a way that maybe an attorney's never done before.
So how does it work? Do you just fire up Zoom, record, then upload your video, or tell us a little bit about how the actual process works?
Yeah, I'm a new potential client wanting to utilize Skribe for the first time.
I know attorneys are very resistant on change and using new technology.
Okay, there's like a 2-hour training course. No, I'm joking. No, it's really simple. So it depends on what your use case is. If you need to schedule a deposition, you would just email us the deposition notice, and the Skribe team would take care of getting the attorney and their team, their assistant, their paralegal, whoever, getting them all set up. And so very kind of white glove experience. There's 2 components to Skribe. There's Skribe Live, which is for scheduling a deposition. And then there's Skribe Library, which is for uploading past files. So if you have, let's say, a body cam recording or a audio recording of a hearing, there are a lot of courts that they can't afford court reporters anymore, or they can't find one. And so some of these courts have started just recording by audio the hearings that they conduct. And the attorneys can get a copy of that file, but then, what is it? It's just an audio file. And so if they have the audio file or a video file, they can upload it into their Skribe Library account, get a transcript within that transcription process is even faster. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes to get the transcript on a past event. And then they can go in and keyword search it, create clips of the audio and video that they can share. So it's really quick. Both are one of the things that we wanted to do was to make the barrier to entry very, very low and make sure that there wasn't a bunch of friction. So you don't have to sign up for a demo. You don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops. There's not a subscription. There's not an annual contract, all those things that lawyers hate being sold. None of that's there. It's very frictionless experience. In fact, for the library product, we provide a free trial where any attorney or anybody, even the two of you, if you wanted to, can upload any audio or video file, and the first 30 minutes will get processed complimentary. So you can see what it looks like,
Nice.
kick the tires. Yeah, really easy.
And you mentioned, the notice of the deposition. What is the interaction with opposing counsel? How much do they need to be involved? Whether instructing their client to obtaining the transcript themselves. So what?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Because that's always the challenge, is that your client is only a piece of the puzzle, right? So
yeah, no, that's a great question. So there's two things that we are doing that we feel like makes it very easy and approachable for everyone. And the first, and this actually goes back to Ryan's question, how do you spin one of these up? How do you do a Skribe deposition? We are an official Zoom ISV partner. And so Zoom is what powers the live video recording and the experience. So even though there's a lot more to it than that going on in the back end, like behind the scenes, the meeting itself is in Zoom. Now it's kind of a custom Zoom link. It's scribe.zoom. whatever. And it's scheduled through our interface, but the meeting itself is a Zoom meeting. And we did that very deliberately because in my experience, attorneys and our clients, the witnesses, a lot of times, they don't want to hassle with having to learn something new, install some plugin to some software that they've never heard of. A lot of them have pretty strict IT policies that kind of prevent plugging in and installing some random company's video software that they've never heard of. So we decided that Zoom became really the gold standard for attorneys and courts during COVID. And we decided to stick with that and not reinvent the wheel. So to answer again Ryan's question, it's a Zoom meeting for all intents and purposes that is hooked into Skribe servers and Skribe scheduling system. And then we take that recording, and that's when kind of all the quote unquote magic happens with getting it processed through ASR, getting it synced up to the video, making it clippable, searchable, all of those things. So to answer your question, Jason, about opposing counsel, they're just, in the notice, we've got some samples. They're just told, hey, here's the Zoom link, and this will be a remote deposition taken non-stenographically, and you're welcome to hire a stenographer if you want to at your own expense. And that is the way most states and most courts kind of have drafted the rules. There are a few states, there's 4 states where non-stenographic is not yet an option. And so my guess is that the court reporter lobby must have gotten a hold of those legislatures or those Supreme Courts and, wrote some very favorable language in there. But for most states, they track the federal rules, and the federal rules of civil procedure provide for non-stenographic depositions, and they have since 1993. And most of the big states follow that. And there's a handful that require stipulations, which is an agreement between parties to do. And we've done depositions in those states. And a lot of times, attorneys, believe it or not, they sometimes do get along. And so, a lot of times, we had one in California who said, hey, I've got this case, and, I talked to opposing counsel, and we're both paying through the eyeballs to this national court reporting company. I think we just want to use Skribe. We can both save money and do it, get everything faster. So, the times are changing. And the rules, I think the rules will be modernized, and they are being modernized, but we try to make it as frictionless as possible. And in many big states, Texas, Florida, New York, all the federal courts nationwide, you can do it as a matter of right. You don't have to get any agreement.
Awesome. That's really cool. So everything's just kind of baked into Zoom. It's just like an app. So if, say I'm using this and for my Zoom account, how does that work? Do I just have to download an app onto my Zoom account? Does everyone need that, or just whoever's recording it?
Yeah, it's even easier than that. All you got to do is join at the Zoom link that Skribe provides. And it just
Awesome.
opens up, it opens up a native Zoom. And again, all the stuff that needs to happen to capture the recording on and off record, right? Because you're going on and off record. It's not like some of these note takers that just record from start to finish.
Yeah.
It is recording, based on the on and off record, pausing and resuming the recording, and then all that gets transcribed on the back end by Skribe. And so, yeah, it's designed to be as easy and frictionless as possible, and that's one of the reasons we partnered with Zoom on it.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This sounds like a no-brainer for remote depositions, right? But a lot of the features that you're offering have value in in-person depositions as well. The not having to locate or pay, the court reporter videographer, and also the speed of receiving the transcript. How would this work for, if your client, opposing counsel, the whole gamut wants to take the deposition in person? Because, in some of these trial cases, even though technology has advanced a lot in a few years, there's some attorneys that are adamant that in-person depositions are hard.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. So let me make a couple of points. So one, based on all the statistics that we've seen, about 80% of depositions are taken either remotely or hybrid. And so Skribe is a perfect fit for those depositions, either a remote deposition or a hybrid deposition where one or more of the attendees are joining by video conference. For a pure 100% in-person deposition, we have a couple of options for that. One would be just putting the laptop in front of the witness to where the witness is being videoed and in the Zoom application, and kind of kicking off a recording that way. We also have an option that involves getting an in-person videographer, or using the law firm's existing video equipment if they have it. Some law firms do have it. So we're exploring what the best fit is for that, but we do have options for the clients. It really depends on how much they want to pay, because if they want to add an in-person videographer that is going to need to come in person and set up and take down, that's going to be an additional expense. If they're more interested in the cost savings piece of it, then they could either use their own video equipment, or they could use the laptop example that I gave. And potentially hook up an external mic, like a conference room mic, so that the audio is picked up very clearly. It's really kind of up to the firm, but we do have some options for that as well.
That's cool. So then they just take that video, upload it to the Skribe library, and then you can get all of the behind the scenes magic that Skribe has to offer.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, for an attorney that, we have talked to a couple of attorneys who they already kind of have their system, and they either do them in person with a video camera on a tripod, or, they use whatever, Microsoft Teams. That's fine. And then you could just use the Skribe library product and just upload your video after you've recorded it, and you get most of the same benefits.
So where do you see Skribe going in the next? So big announcement, I guess, a couple of weeks ago, you announced a big fundraise. So I imagine development's really ramping up now to the next, 1, 2, 3, 5-year plan. Where are you guys going in the immediate future?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, I think the answer is we're not afraid to break things and really try to go in and disrupt how the legal world captures testimony. And by break things, I don't mean ship, buggy product. I mean processes, break, old ways of doing things that no one's really tried to rethink or redo in 50 years. And so one of the differences between us and some of the other companies that are exploring things in this space is we are non-stenographic. We are not partnering with stenographers. We do not believe the future of testimony is typing on a keyboard that was designed in 1877. We see the future of the future of testimony being 100% software. And by 100%, I literally mean in the not too distant future, it will not require human proofreading, because the software will be so good in the next probably 1 to 2 years, 3 at the outset, that even the proofreading or the corrections that happen to the transcript will be done through some form of AI. And so, it's a I would say it's a very forward leaning approach. And, maybe we'll be wrong. Maybe it'll take more time to get there, but I don't think so. When you see what some of these companies are doing with OpenAI, with Tesla, with a lot of companies that play in the AI space, things are moving very, very fast, with things like full self-driving, robots, these large language models. And I think our goal is always to skate to where the puck is going to be, not to where it is. And that's kind of part of our philosophy at Skribe. And so things that are probably, not that far off into the future for us, some generative AI features to help attorneys, with the deposition process, maybe even to help witnesses with the process. We have a lot of different things on our wish list, but you can only do so much so fast. So we're trying to really nail the core functionality, make sure we get that right, make sure it's priced right, that attorneys like it, that if there's things that they don't like, that we fix those things before we just start adding shiny features just for the sake of adding shiny features.
Yeah. One of the big things that when I was doing a little bit of research and trying to play devil's advocate in my head of, what are the possible issues? And I saw the Scribe liaison. I think all of our clients would, that's a big feature. All those questions that I had was basically answered by that one individual. Could you describe, how that person would interact during a Scribe deposition?
Yeah, so think of what we call the Scribe liaison. Think of that as almost like a person there to make sure that everyone has an amazing experience, right? They're like a customer success person. Now, they also are serving some other roles. They serve as the notary to swear in the witness. They do some light technical support to make sure that people realize, oh, you need to unmute yourself. Where is that? Or you need to change your video feed, or, just some of the things that someone who doesn't Zoom every day or every week may feel a little unfamiliar, but they can be coached through with some light technical support. And then they're also there to, capture maybe spellings of words, things that, may otherwise be difficult for the software to know necessarily without some context. But yeah, I mean, it is you asked about the vision. The vision would be that in the future, they're really just there as a customer success person, and they're only really there to help get the event kicked off or maybe check on it, towards the end. We envision a 100% software-driven solution as the future. And that doesn't mean we won't have customer support people to make sure that our customers are happy and they're getting the quality that they demand. But it's, I think that our goal is to drive the cost down. And part of that really is to make it easier for attorneys to take depositions, particularly in cases where maybe their clients can't currently afford depositions. So depositions have gotten super expensive. Like an average cost to take a deposition, if you want a transcript and you want video and you want them synced, it's about $800 per hour to hire a court reporting agency to do those things. Wow. And that doesn't include any rush fees. It doesn't include some of the other fees that they will sometimes charge. So it's an expensive process. And I think, over time, as we grow, as we scale, as we begin to layer on more and more software solutions, we'll be able to drive the cost down substantially. And I think that's going to open up, I think where I hope it goes and where I really want it to get is an attorney can take any deposition that they want to without thinking about the cost. Because in a lot of these cases, depending on what type of practice you have, but in a lot of them, whether it's personal injury or family law or, pick a practice area, I always tell my associates, there is no better place to gather information than just take the darn deposition. Right? Go in, get the person sworn in, and take the deposition, get them under oath, and ask them as many questions as you can think of relevant to the dispute at hand. Between that and for what we do, site inspections at my law firm, you just learn so much in that process. And I feel like a lot of times attorneys really don't take enough depositions. And if it was as simple as just scheduling a Zoom meeting, right? Scheduling a Scribe meeting, and you could just fire it up from your comfort of your home office or your work office and just knock out a deposition without any travel, without spending $1,000 to do it. I think it could really improve the litigator's life and also, save their clients a lot of money.
Yeah. Speaking of cost and lowering it, I think the big question on anyone watching this podcast up to this point is what is Skribe's pricing structure?
Yeah. So we have two prices that we offer currently. One is for Skribe library, so past events, right? Past audio and video files. That's $99 per record hour, and it's billed in the 10th of an hour, so 6-minute increments. So you don't, there's no rounding up by the half hour or anything like that. So if you uploaded a 1-hour file, it would cost $99 to get it processed, transcribed, and synced up to the audio or video in the web application. And then for Skribe Live, which currently includes everything, currently includes the liaison, the human proofread final transcript, the rough transcript the same day, all the web app features, the video sync, all in one pricing of $349 per record hour. And that's per record hour, not, we took a 1-hour lunch break and you're still on the clock, or, you get charged for all the break time. It's only the time spent on the record.
And does opposing counsel have to pay any type of fee if they want to receive the transcript or the witness themselves?
Yeah, opposing counsel is charged. So 2 points. One, if they are the attorney who represents the witness, they will get a read and sign copy of the transcript for 30 days or whatever that's their state rules require, where they can read the transcript and their client can fill out an errata sheet, a read and sign sheet. But if they want to buy a copy of the video or buy a permanent copy of the transcript that won't expire after 30 days, there is a fee for that, and it's $199 per record hour.
Awesome. Great.
Amazing, Karl.
And our goal, just, again, and my team may slap me for saying this, we want to get the price down. Like, I expect the price to go down over time. And so we feel like it's already a very fair price. We've been doing some studies and comparisons to court reporting invoices, even in some cases where Skribe did them and they were also done by a court reporting agency. And we're seeing about a 50 to 60% cost savings. So it's, a significant cost savings versus the traditional methods.
Yeah. And that's, only one part of the cost. You're eliminating travel, you're eliminating, all of these other logistic nightmares where you're just making it so simple. Hey, here's a link, hop on, everything's done for you behind the scenes. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Well, one of the
Sorry, go ahead, Karl.
No, I was just gonna say one of the things that I get the most excited about, and maybe I'm just nerdy on this, I don't know, but I have had a few attorneys say like, "Oh shit, how did you do that? You can do that," and so let me explain what that is. I love the ability to take a video segment of testimony, like some of the really meaty parts of the deposition, and actually create a video clip just by highlighting the text in the web application. And then I take that video and I actually put it in my work product. So my law firm is filing motions with video embedded in our motion. We are reporting to our clients about, hey, here's what happened at the deposition, either today or yesterday. Here's the highlights, like give them a highlight reel. Here's what the corporate rep said about this topic, or here's what the plaintiff said about that topic, so that the client or the judge or the arbitrator really gets a more impactful view of what happened. They can watch it. So, and the person who gets that link, just like with like a YouTube link or something, they don't need an account. They don't have to pay anything. It just opens up on their browser, or it even opens up on like an iPhone or an Android phone, and it just plays the corresponding testimony and the text scrolls right underneath the video.
Very cool. Very cool.
Have you guys dabbled into or looked into any type of subscription service for maybe some of these large scale mass litigating firms where, this could be multiple depositions a day, every day?
Yeah, no, we definitely are open to that. And I was almost late to this podcast because we were on with an attorney based in the Austin area who he actually does family law type disputes. And The court that he appears in regularly, it sounds like almost every week he's in court for like all day long. They record everything by audio and they don't have a court reporter. And so his use case was a great fit, which was, look, I'm doing this stuff all the time. And, I feel like your price is fair, but, could I get a little bit of a discount if we did a subscription, or if we did like a bundle, buy a package, get a lower price? And we are certainly open to those conversations. We haven't published any pricing around that because we frankly need to spend some time with the clients to figure out, we want to make sure the pricing fits their business model. And so we're having those kind of one-off conversations as they come up.
Awesome.
Cool. Karl, really appreciate your time today. You've put together, it looks like a phenomenal product that's really going to, I think, have a big impact on the industry. So kudos to you and your team. Very cool. I do want to go back on the record one time and correct my mistake. It was not Blink 182. It was actually New Kids on the Block who burned down a Seelbach hotel. So I did want to fix that for the record. But
that's a good thing to correct. It's not necessarily the band I would have thought would burn down a room at the Seelbach hotel, but
me either. But
still a good story. Yeah. At first I thought I was on a bourbon podcast when we first started. And maybe your audience would have enjoyed that topic more. I don't know.
Maybe that's the next one. So yeah. Jason knows I'll talk about bourbon all day long.
Do y'all ever make it to Austin?
We're going to be in Austin for AAJ convention here coming up in a few months.
Yeah, well, I'll be there as well. Well, I live in Austin, but I'll probably be at that conference as well. So look forward to seeing you guys in person, and maybe we can, maybe I can take you guys out for some Texas barbecue or something.
Guaranteed.
Very much looking forward to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've got some good distilleries. I actually live in Dripping Springs, just outside of Austin, and there's some really good distilleries out here too. One of my favorites is Treaty Oak. And so Treaty Oak distills a lot of different types of spirits, but they also have a fantastic barbecue restaurant on site called Alice's Restaurant. But the barbecue's great. A lot of times they have live music. It's on like a 20-acre ranch. I mean, it's a good spot.
Awesome. Hey, drop your I'll have contact information in the show notes and everything, but just for audio, what's the best way to get a hold of you guys?
Yeah, for sure. So my email address would be perfectly fine, which is Karl, Karl, at skribe.ai, and that's Skribe with a K, so SKRIBE.ai. You could also look me up on LinkedIn, hop on our website. If you want to give me a call, you're welcome to do that too. 512-960-4891 if you're old school, want to talk. But yeah, feel free to drop any of those places. I'm also on X. Are we calling it that yet? I guess people are calling it.
I don't know. I still call it Twitter. I'm weird.
Yeah. So I'm on there. My, at Karl Seelbach, first name, last name. I'm also on Peloton. If any of you are biking or running.
I have one, but it's got a lot of dust layered on.
They make a good clothes hanger. If it's the bike, you can
do. They do. It's in my home office, and it has not seen use in some time.
Well, in all seriousness, I really do like networking with other attorneys and other people just in the space that are either, legal support companies or, whatever, anything that's related to legal. So if you are coming to Austin for a conference, look me up. I'd love to kind of introduce you to some of the folks at my firm and network. And if you ever need a conference room, we have offices in Bee Cave, which is just west of Austin. So happy to give you a conference room for a deposition or mediation if you have something you want to drop in for.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Karl.
Thanks, gentlemen. I appreciate y'all hosting.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.
That concludes another episode of the Legal Vendor Podcast, part of the Lawyer Minds ecosystem. Thank you for listening. We truly hope it was worth your time. Please consider subscribing to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. Explore the other content that Lawyer Minds has to offer and engage with us on social media. Your feedback and ideas are always welcome. See you next time.